Very much for your time. We've been reading that apparently intelligence agency chiefs from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain have been meeting in Cairo today. That's, of course, ahead of that meeting that's scheduled to take place tomorrow in Cairo. What do you make of the fact that these intelligence chiefs are meeting today?
Well, it's no secret that intelligence agencies, particularly their leaders, have significant influence in shaping foreign policy in the Middle East. So I don't think the fact that they're meeting is unusual. I think the question is, what are they discussing? And possibly a topic of discussion is whether or not they will be establishing a military base in Bahrain that will comprise of Egyptian soldiers, Saudi Arabian, and Emirati soldiers. Because if it's true that the ties between Qatar and Iran are strengthening, having a military presence in Bahrain could be further deterrence of Iran engaging with Qatar through military operations.
The UAE's foreign minister is quoted as saying that any escalation, if Qatar doesn't comply with the demands, the list of demands that's been put out, will be within international law. Do you dictate any change in the nature of tone between statements that are being made now by the four Arab states and those that were made by those states at the start of this dispute?
Well, there's certainly a lot of eyebrows that have been raised internationally with regard to the stringency and the suddenness of the demands on Qatar. So I think there's pressure on these four countries to appear that they are being reasonable and that, in fact, they're adhering to international law. Also, the Qataris have reportedly hired a law firm to look at whether they can sue on behalf of the over 19,000 citizens and 1,000 students that are Qatari that have been injured personally by these sanctions and by effectively kicking them out of these countries. So I think this is more of a response to that pressure, not necessarily toning down the demands.
You were talking about, when we were just mentioning earlier the meeting of the intelligence chiefs, you were talking about the possibility that there might be a base created within Bahrain, say, including Egyptian troops there. If no compromise is reached as a result of this dispute, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's going to push Qatar closer to Iran and to Turkey, because those are the two countries in which it has strong economic ties to, at least with regard to Turkey. A significant percentage of its economy is based on strong relationships with Turkey, which is likely why the Turkish sent their their soldiers to Qatar. And also, Qatar is reportedly relying more on Iran to replace the lack of food supplies and other basic necessities that it used to import through the Saudi Arabian border with Qatar, which has now been closed. So I think what the GCC is doing is very counterproductive insofar as pushing Qatar to have stronger ties with Iran and Turkey, and therefore I'm not sure they're going to get their demands if they don't find a diplomatic solution.
Really interesting to get your views on this. Sahar Aziz, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.